Hello to our audience. Welcome to this episode of Inslee Insights. You're joined by me, Hammad Mirza from Inslee. And today we've got two very special guests with us. We have David and Hutton from OneClickCover. Welcome.
Hi there.
Hello.
If you wouldn't mind, guys, giving a brief introduction to yourselves and then also to OneClickCover, I think that would be a great place to start.
Perfect. Well, thanks, Hammad. My name is Hutton Swinglehurst, and I'm the founder and CEO of OneClickCover, which is a business that I started back in 2017 from a PowerPoint presentation, and we've now developed that into a fully regulated MGA business that operates in the UK standard home insurance market, which is a highly competitive marketplace, but one where we're offering a unique tech-driven, data-driven solution, which we'll be telling you about. My background has been in finance and insurance as well, and also data-driven risk solutions, which is how I came to come up with the idea of being able to really try and revolutionize the way people buy home insurance in the UK. So instead of having to answer questions as to what percentage of their roof is flat or what type of window locks they have, we simply provide a fully underwritten, guaranteed price based on just the property address, which, as far as I'm aware, and I'm prepared to be corrected, nobody else in the UK market can do, which makes us, truly special.
Great.
And I'm David. I'm a CTO of OneClickCover. So my roles and responsibilities are to drive the tech forward, complementing what Hutton's business has kind of evolved into, which is a very, very efficient and portable tech solution for insurance firms and companies. My background is I've spent 20 plus years in tech, specifically around financial markets and services. I spent my formative years in New York with full capital markets nirvana, working for the likes of Lehman Brothers and RBC, Nomura. Switched to more a startups, companies, smaller companies over the last 5-7 years. So that's been quite a gratifying shift and be able to work with the likes of Inslee, who appreciate very much as a tech provider and a solutions provider.
Great stuff. Thank you both very much. That's super helpful for me and for our audience as well. So with that being said, would you say that there was kind of like a genesis or like an initial kind of aha moment for when the business started? Were you kind of looking around left and right to see if there was a similar solution? And maybe because there wasn't at the time, you thought, okay, great, this is the right place, the right moment, the right time, etc. Or how did the kind of the beginnings kind of start for OneClickCover?
Well, to answer that, I think you only have to look at the traditional home insurance experience that is offered by the marketplace today, and it hasn't really changed from when I came up with the idea of the business back in 2017, which is essentially a market that's driven by aggregators, where price is everything and experience is nothing, and the customer has to answer 70, 80, up to 80 questions just to get a quote, just to test a renewal price that they've been offered by their incumbent provider, and so it was really trying to apply the mentality and the kind of consumer experience that one could see that had developed very quickly, and elsewhere in the market, such as Amazon's one-click buying experience. Why couldn't we do something in home insurance? The data was there. It was just a question of moving out of a silo mentality and taking a broader view of how to price home insurance risk, which is what we in an economic way, which was really kind of the trick that we were able to pull off.
Absolutely, and that makes a lot of sense, and it's a great kind of real world example for the rest of our listeners who are maybe not from an insurance background. Given the kind of the Amazon one-click buying analogy, I think that's a really kind of good way to put it. And I think it's such a pain point, isn't it? Kind of in insurance for consumers, whether it comes to motor or for home. And I think you've already touched on it, is all of the fields that you have to fill in. It's quite a laborious task, which makes life easy for probably the MGA or the insurance company or the broker, but it makes life incredibly difficult for the customer. So with that being said, did you see a lot of traction initially? Or is it something that was kind of quite progressive to kind of get the word out to drum up that initial bit of demand? How was that journey like for you?
As probably most people can imagine, the insurance industry does move at its own pace, which is a somewhat glacial one, to say the least. There are also some very large incumbent players that are certainly pretty averse to cheeky upstarts such as ourselves coming into their market. I've never really thought of our business necessarily as a disruptor, because more as an enabler, really, because we want to provide the customer with a better experience, but we want them to buy the same product that they are already buying. We're not trying to suggest that there is some alternative type of insurance, or to kind of disrupt the kind of product mix and the cover and the security that the existing market provides particularly well, and that the customer is used to and comfortable with. So it was about providing, and not necessarily competing with all insurers, also providing with an opportunity. So, for example, take the industry has tried to cross-sell home insurance to motor insurance customers, and this has been something that insurance brands have wrestled with for years. How to take advantage of a very large installed base of motor insurance customers and provide them with an additional product such as home insurance. And the problem is that the reality is that if you've just been talking to somebody in a call center and you want to you've just completed the purchase of your motor insurance, which has probably taken a good 45 minutes or something in itself, and if a salesperson says, well, Mrs. Jones, would you be interested in buying home insurance? It'll only take 40 minutes. It's really not something anybody's very interested in, and that tends to be the end of the conversation. So when we were able to offer to these players, whether they be brokers or insurers, where they have the address of the motor customer, we can provide them with a quote which they can offer their customer without the customer having to do anything at all, not even provide any information whatsoever. And so certainly the interest and the consensus that the market was ready for a much improved customer experience, and essentially try to get rid of these long and confusing and tedious question sets. That was something that has been met from the start and to this day with enthusiasm and support. And we've kind of built our business on kind of a dual strategy of kind of firstly a B2B business, which is something that we've kind of concentrated on initially, which is working with a raft of brokers who already have large customers that are looking to large numbers of customers looking to purchase and renew their home insurance with them, and we've also created a direct consumer business, but that is a tougher nut to crack because of just the structure of distribution of home insurance. It's gone are the days when you can launch a direct consumer brand through TV campaigns. That's just not efficient anymore. You don't get the required return on your marketing investment that makes it worthwhile. So you have to look at other ways of doing that, which can be through embedded insurance solutions, where we can provide a white label solution to an existing brand that has what I call a strong adjacency to home insurance. So that could be a bank or a mortgage broker, where we or property portal, that sort of business, where we can provide the one-click quote, through through delivery of their own customer-facing experience. We can submit a price which they serve up to their customers. As with driving direct brands, of which we have one called Hoot Home Insurance. That's more challenging. It requires requires marketing investment on social media, and probably involves participating on the aggregators, as using aggregators as a means to an end, as a way to access the customer and to build a brand. Even though obviously, if a customer is on an aggregator, they have to answer the full question set and don't immediately get the benefit of our questionless approach.
Completely makes sense. And it's the aggregators who would ask a fixed number of questions and then obviously offer the quotes as a conclusion of answering all of those questions, right? So I guess that makes things quite interesting, that there's kind of a split between the direct to consumer side and kind of the B2B side. What does that kind of look like then from a technological perspective, trying to kind of build those two separate brands or entities of the business, from a technology lens? Because obviously each one will probably have its own set of challenges, right?
Yeah, I think the way it's been depicted, as Hutton said, there's a B2C and a B2B, and they complement each other. At the back end, there is a consistent engine that's driving both journeys, and that is our data-centric approach, where we're taking literally hundreds of data sources, over 450 data sources, to derive an understanding of what a quote should be priced at. And for that, the technology that we started with, the key part was understanding all that data first and foremost, and then overlaying what I call a tuning infrastructure onto it. So very flexible. Tuning means that as you sell this tech to different providers who have different requirements, you can fine tune like a piano the different pricing constraints of that. And it's been very easy to do that. So we kind of took a sort of baseline set of pricing, and then we have our own proprietary further fine tuning on top of that to be able to flexibly go into different clients. And we package that up into, for the B2B side, a very, very tight API. And the API is simple by design. It's analogous to an SDK or a software development kit or a straight-laced API. If you as a company can programmatically send an API request, you have a quote. That's all you need to do. In fact, it's probably the simplest API. I always, when I'm demonstrating that to tech teams at other companies, it's the simplest thing. It's just basically a single endpoint to get a quote. And then all the rest is reconciliation. It's user reconciliation. It's understanding sort of the client's user base, how they think about their own infrastructure. But at the end of the day, it's driving just a single request. Behind that request is hundreds of data sources that can provide a result, within seconds. And so technically the challenge that we're alluding to here is that you can go from a 50-minute questionnaire that you might not even know half the answers to, such as how big is your roof, how many doors are at your property, how many floors, to a 5-second result. And the B2C side is a definite benefactor of that workflow. No questions asked. You go in, you get it done. It's obviously easy. The challenge is that on the B2B side, the way that the incentives are set up on aggregators are to still ask you those questions. And so that's when we say we're complementary. We're offering the same underlying tech, but for the B2B has to kind of evolve to move away from those question sets, which are part of their business, to this more optimized, very quick, technological savvy workflow. And that's where we say we want to be an end enabler. We understand that there are existing mechanisms at play for how businesses operate. Those are going to be preserved for the current day. We are an enabling tech on top of that, so we can slot into these questionnaires if you want and give a quick answer. But really, our end goal is to be able to evolve companies to a much more quicker solution with our tech.
Amazing. And I think you've explained it really well, and kind of to simplify it in those terms is quite kind of refreshing as well, especially for a lot of our MGA audience as well, who are maybe trying to do similar things. But yeah, that's
The way I think about it, just to kind of echo that
yeah.
point, is if you can on a web page host a Google Maps widget or be able to pull some weather data that shows the current time, you can get an insurance quote. It's the same kind of tech. The sophistication is all hidden. It's all tucked away. But if you can implement those kind of things, you can get full-fledged insurance as a service.
Amazing. That's a great way to put it, isn't it? Insurance as a service. And yeah, that really does kind of hit home, I think, in terms of the capabilities for both the end consumer and kind of the B2B side as well. And then maybe if we revert back to that kind of B2B side, Hudson, you've mentioned that you're trying to kind of get into the embedded side of things as well as kind of a distribution avenue or a channel. But then what are kind of the distribution challenges that you have kind of elsewhere? Obviously, it's an interesting one because let's just say some aggregators, for example, they might be very fixed on asking a certain amount of questions from their customers. So is there kind of a way to bypass or expedite that process when you're kind of offering that solution or a quote to an aggregator?
No, I think is the short answer. I think aggregators have looked at creating. They're obviously they're very keen to try and reduce the number of questions that they offer, but frankly, they haven't been able to do that because there's always a risk. I mean, one of the reasons why there's so many questions in an aggregator data set is because of it's just a reflection of the number of participants on their panel. The more insurers, the more providers that you have who are accessing an aggregator and offering different types of product, the more questions get asked because they each have their own particular angle, and so if the pricing is to become more and more granular, the number of questions increases. So you're not, and if you tried to, if this data, if they didn't have to ask the questions, if they could get, if the insurers or the aggregators could get the data from some other source, reliable source, and they would, but they've been able to do sort of fill-in type things in certain areas, such as restatement, rebuild costs of properties. They can get access to the RICS database and things like that. But actually, fun enough, to my surprise, it's not something that they have, in my view, successfully been able to improve. I think most people would say that the aggregator experience and the number of questions has not really changed at all over the last kind of 10 years. If anything, it's got slightly worse. And if we were to participate on an aggregator, we would, we wouldn't be able to change that. We would, we could still offer a price. We would appear in the list along with everybody else, except that, and we would take advantage. We would capture the data that had been collected by the aggregator. We wouldn't, we have our own way to underwrite that based on the property address, but we would also, augment that and tune it, as David says, based on the additional data that we would be provided. But we would then, if we sold a policy, obviously, or if we were the cheapest quote, customer comes to us, they will be sent to our website. So, and they will finish the product purchase on our website, and that will. So we will fulfill that policy, provide the take payment, we'll provide the policy documentation, provide a self-service customer portal, and also full service customer support. And at that point, we they're our customer, and it's up to us to service and get that customer to renew with us, and to get an understanding of actually how there is a much quicker way, easier way to buy home insurance. And so, as I say, the aggregators is our partner, is a route to market, allows us to get our brand out there and get the whole one-click purchasing experience into the public consciousness, because I do believe that people will ultimately would prefer to, providing they're getting a competitive price, they would much rather spend a couple of minutes buying home insurance than a couple of hours.
Definitely, and I think you've really explained that quite well, because where the end insured customer, for example, they all know the names of the aggregators, or kind of how to search for certain products via the aggregator. So I think as a route to market, it makes kind of complete sense. And for the people who don't want to have the laborious 50 or 100 fields to fill out, then obviously there's the D2C solution as well, isn't there? There's obviously gaining traction from your side. So there's kind of two different approaches that you have, which is a very kind of smart angle, because you see kind of other businesses and they'll focus on one specific angle, and that'll kind of be, they'll continue to try and optimize for that one thing that's working quite well for them. But on the flip side, obviously, you've got kind of both approaches. And I guess it's interesting because like kind of from a customer lens, if you were to use the kind of the postcode lookup or the D2C kind of product, and you had a really successful experience with that, then that's a quite a pivotal moment for them. Number one, obviously, because you've already mentioned it, renewals would probably be much easier because there's probably not many changes you have to make when that renewal comes up. But also, from a technological perspective, you don't really need to, the following 12 months after your policy is coming to an end, you don't need to go in and do the 50 to 100 kind of fields in another place. So yeah, very, 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 very interesting way of kind of putting your solutions to the market for sure. And obviously, kind of 7 or 8 years into your journey, what would you say has kind of changed maybe since the start? So you kind of had did the D2C business kind of come later? Did they come at the same time? What's kind of that kind of like maybe the top level picture been like over that last 7 or 8 years, kind of since the beginning? And that's maybe it could be scaling issues on a general level. It could be, we've gone from, I don't know, let's say 100 customers to 1,000 customers. All of a sudden, having one or two support people means we need to have a lot more. So, what was that journey been like in terms of the kind of the progress and the general challenges that have come up along the way? I think that would be really interesting to see in that period of time.
Well, we've concentrated on the B2B side in order to establish the business, prove the technology, prove our underwriting performance in order to give comfort to the carriers that support us. And I think we've lived through fairly volatile times when it's come to pricing. We had not just home insurance, but home insurance was hit particularly hard by the inflationary shocks that followed COVID, and we've seen pricing disruption that we haven't seen for many years in terms of the increased cost, dramatic rise in motor and home insurance premiums, which obviously haven't sat well with consumers, understandably, and that's also had an effect on the carriers' appetite for home insurance. I think hopefully now the market has settled, but there are still there are players out there who had sort of stepped back or had maybe over-egged their price increases of a year or so ago, and now discounting and making quite aggressive land grabs for market share. So one has to kind of adjust and deal with that. I think fortunately we've been able to grow the business fairly aggressively without having to expand kind of personnel too aggressively. That's one of the advantages of essentially being a software driven business. And I've been very fortunate as a CEO to have a fantastic team of people around me who've been supporting the business and have been with us the whole time, the likes of David and others, and including Inslee. I include Inslee as a our arguably longest standing partner who've been there from day one, and that continuity and longevity certainly allows us to move fast because everybody knows what they're doing. There's a clear chain of command and a clear definition of roles, so everybody knows what to do and when to do it, basically. And we've worked very hard to kind of improve the technology, make it more robust, make it more efficient, make it more functional, make it more accurate, and that's where David has led the team that has interacted with Inslee in order to do that.
Amazing.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, technically, the core tech that we launched years prior, really that foundation is still there. Like that core tech of getting a quote, 5 seconds, using data aggressively to do that. That has been the kind of the cornerstone of the business. What has changed is I would call the portability of that, how we deliver that data into different markets, how we've built our enablement layer into other businesses, because as we evolved as a API or as a tech insurance tech provider, the premium is, yes, you need to get quick pricing, but you need to also provide a means to quickly integrate it. And so we've really focused with our clients on not just making our tech streamlines, but what I would call abstraction layers for all these different legacy clients. And that's really, I think, if you look from where we started to now, we have got a lot more maturity around adapters, around understanding when we engage with someone or a business that's going to use our tech, we know that more likely than not, they have their own consulting firm that they work with. They have their own sort of core team that's part of that business. And we got to engage with both those parties. And we need to be very clear on our comms when how we work with these guys. And we know that these are all legacy-esque applications that we are integrating with. And we got a big deal with Excel-centric workflows, EDI, we're very legacy data feeds. And luckily, we've built feeds for all of that. And so that's been a big part of it, is anticipating where the friction is going to be. The friction is not going to be on the quote. That comes always within seconds. The friction is going to be on how you integrate that with legacy systems. And that's, as we said, we're enabling on that. And we've actually evolved teams that have worked with us to kind of use our APIs as standard, as canon, if you will, with the industry. So how you do a renewal programmatically, or how you do a new business quote programmatically, what we're proudest of is that if our APIs, if our ways of electronically managing that is standard canon within the industry. There is no other companies that are doing it at this level. So having those programmatic throughputs to hook into and having them be standard in the industry is key for us.
Absolutely, and that's really quite interesting, because before you kind of mentioned that, I never really thought of that as being a challenge to an extent, because you can have really good kind of technology inputs and outputs, but if the partners you're working with, for example, are still not really operating in that way, then that in itself is a challenge, isn't it? So I guess yeah, with the API and the technology being able to plug in, that's super helpful. And there's probably a lot of incumbents out there, namely, or not to name any of the maybe the bigger players, who probably need to catch up with their own kind of native solutions. So that really kind of gives you the front footing, doesn't it, to an extent? Great.
Yeah, it's generally the issues with B2B. So we don't have these issues if B2C or direct to consumer. I mean, that's the beauty of that part of the business, which is you own everything. You can manage the friction yourself, and you're responsible for it. The B2B business is much more about adapting into enablement-led workflows with legacy partners and knowing how to maneuver and manage within that.
Definitely. And one of the things that Hudson, actually, you mentioned just now, was that obviously the relationship with kind of partners in general, and obviously Inslee comes into the mix in that kind of conversation as well as a long-standing partner. So I think that relationship extends the amount of time that I've been at Inslee myself. So so that is quite a long relationship. So how has that kind of been from the start, and how is that kind of today, if you had to give a very quick overview on that relationship? And you might have different answers. Hudson, you might have something more from a business lens, and David, you might have something more from a technology lens. So I think yeah, very interested to get both of your thoughts on that.
Well, from my perspective, I was pretty sure that I'd picked the right partner when we started, and I'm absolutely certain now that with the intervening time that that Inslee has been a fantastic development partner for us. Initially, we wanted to choose a sort of an off-the-shelf policy administration system. There wasn't any point in kind of developing our own, and which is what we did. And then, but what I think is really quite interesting, and David can elaborate this better than I can. But we've taken something that is essentially an off-the-shelf product that probably doesn't go much further in terms of how some of your customers use it. They use it for what it is, but we've actually managed to build an enormous amount of proprietary IP into that system, and it's actually become our our main delivery mechanism, and that's worked extremely well. We, as with any business partnership, there've been obstacles that we've had to overcome, bottlenecks, but we always managed to find a way. There's always eventually an answer which we get through, which is all credit to the Inslee team, and it's been a great partnership, and long may it last.
Right.
Yeah, so technically, I'll give a more of a tech-centric view. So, working in fintech, financial services, and insurance tech services, you find devs or companies that have the excellence in technical skill, but you also need the excellence in domain knowledge. And I think that's from my perspective, Inslee brings that in very few people or companies can do this effectively, where you have a nimble development team coupled with key domain knowledge, so they understand the difference between an MTA or a border report or really industry jargon that can trip up non-domain developers. And so Inslee, I think one of the key things there is that the ability for us to partner with developers and project managers that have that domain knowledge is key. And Inslee provides what I would call the root sort of system level workflow that we need, and it lets us build the differentiator part of the business, which is the data piece, the behavior, the quoting, decision making, and the AI piece. And that allows us to focus exclusively on that. And then for the rest, we rely on Inslee's teams to provide policy the way that the uh, reports function, the way that you would do user management, those are all come a part of the Inslee suite of services. So, it's a great partnership. I think that it's a testament to the people at Inslee also. I mean, 6-7 years, that is a relationship that is built on trust, that is built on transparency. Uh, we have um, direct access to the business, to the people, and vice versa. We make ourselves available, so we're really one team with Inslee. And having worked in different industries like this for years, you really appreciate when you have that level of partnership. It doesn't come generally very easily, I think. So we appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. That's very, very kind words. And yeah, it makes kind of complete sense. You could be an expert kind of software provider, but if you don't know the specific industry or domain, then there's always going to be that kind of gap, isn't there? Whether that's in results or communication. So
Yeah, and I think the really good tech centric companies have a business that's a client centric business, but then they're also pushing the envelope on their own tech. And they have their own versions of their platform. We always are engaging with Inslee on up in our um, the root level business, the root level workflows. That's pushing the envelope separately. So we're the direct benefactors of all of that. That's keeps happening. We don't worry about it. We know it gets. There's a whole team devoted to it. So for us, it's a huge positive aspect of working with Inslee.
great, great, and yeah, that's a great kind of way to wrap up in a way as well. But I think there's one last thing that I really like to ask our customers towards the end of these sessions. And that is obviously, depending on the amount of time they've been a customer or they've been kind of around for in kind of in operationally, is, what are your kind of next plans to grow, or what's your kind of next set of objectives to get from maybe where you are now to somewhere where it's maybe a little bit more aspirational, and that could be anything from more capacity, more distribution partners. It could be anything. And again, you might have different answers as well. So great to get your thoughts on where you want to head and maybe how you
It's
can get
probably easy
there
if
as
I
well.
answer that. From a strategic point of view, as I say, our direct B2C business has is still fairly nascent and something that we really want to grow. As I've discussed, we feel the two ways to do that are via aggregators and also via embedded insurance solutions. So we would very much love to work with a bank, building society, property portal, a mortgage broker, where we would offer a white label solution that is served via their website UX, or however they engage with the customer through them. So they own the customer, and we're providing the product behind the scenes. That's something we would really love to crack. We've done it in small ways in the past, but we'd really like to work with a kind of a headline provider. And then, as I say, aggregators, which is our route to market to develop our brand, Hoot Home Insurance, and then also we're still expanding our B2B business, and we have a number of opportunities that are in development at the moment, and we will hopefully launch a couple of those in early and mid 2026. So there's the strategy is clear. It's one of delivery, and that's what we're focused on getting on with.
Amazing. Well, David and Hutton, we wish you both the best of luck with all of your ambitious growth plans. And yeah, we're happy to play a small part in your journey as well. And thank you very much for sparing a little bit of time to speak with us here at Inslee to share some of your thoughts as well. It's also been a pleasure. So yeah, thank you very much. And to all of our audience that's been listening, thank you. If you managed to make it to the end, we'll drop the links down in the description below, so you can find the OneClickCover website and Hoot Home Insurance as well. And you can check it out for yourselves and leave your thoughts in the comments. But yeah, please like, comment, and share. And if you have any additional thoughts, please let us know right below in the comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hammad.